in John chapter 2, he says, Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." In John chapter 7, then they tried to arrest him, but no one laid hands on him because his hour had not yet come. John chapter 8. He spoke these words while he was teaching in the treasury of the temple, but no one arrested him because his hour had not yet come. And in today's reading, the word hour occurs twice. Jesus says, "Now my soul is troubled. And what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it is for this reason that I have come to this hour." Then the next chapter, John 13. Now, before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. And in the great high priestly prayer in John 17, after Jesus had spoken these words, he looked up to heaven and said, "Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, so that the Son may glorify you." So in John's Gospel, Jesus keeps talking about the hour. As I said, it sounds like Jesus might have an appointment. He keeps saying, "It's not time for my appointment yet." Now, we know people deal with time management in different ways. Some people always have their eyes on the clock, always checking to see what time it is, see if they need to get a shower or get dressed or brush their teeth before they have to take off for an appointment somewhere. They're very vigilant. Other people are lackadaisical. We all know these people. They don't pay attention. They will look at the clock and say, "Oh my goodness, look what time it is. I'm going to be late." And sure enough, they're late. They're always late. You can count on them to be late. I thought in some of my pastorates in the past, we're always having some people come in 5-15 minutes late. I thought we should just trick them and tell them we start 15 minutes earlier so they would get there on time. But, there are these people, you can tell them, why don't you start getting ready earlier? The traffic, you don't have to drive as fast. You'll get here on time. You don't have to be, anxious about getting here. And it doesn't do any good, does it? Because they're always going to be late. That's just the way some people are. Jesus had an appointment in Jerusalem, and he was always aware of it. He was never in a hurry. No need to hurry. He kept telling people, my hour has not come yet. Until we get to today's reading in John 12. My hour has come, he says. And today's reading, he also says something about now. He says, now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be driven out. And that last phrase, will be driven out, reminds us maybe of two things. It reminds me of the Garden of Eden after the snake tricked the man and the woman, and they sinned, and they were driven out of paradise. An angel was set to guard the gate so they couldn't come back in. The snakes stayed there. But now, says Jesus, the snake will be driven out. Humanity, on the other hand, will be promised a place in paradise. It's in Luke's gospel where Jesus says on the cross, today you will be with me in paradise. So the hour has come. The world will be judged. Christ's death on the cross is a revelation of the evil present in the world. The one perfectly good person in human history was put to death as a criminal and a heretic. His death revealed the reality of evil and the continuing resistance to God's love. But evil was judged on that day when he was put to death. You see, in John's gospel, when we look at the cross, we we sort of see court in session. In fact, all through John's gospel, this court language is used, like being a witness, speaking the truth. So we see the worst that evil can do to the best that God can be. We see evil on trial. We see the evidence of evil action. We see evil's attempt to murder truth. The evidence was overwhelming. Evil was judged and found guilty. Evil tried to murder God. And as the soldiers pounded the nails into his hands and feet, it was the sound of the judge's gavel pounding on the desk saying, "Guilty, guilty, evil is guilty of murdering God." But the devil was run out of town. He was cast out. And so many times in the Gospels we read about Jesus casting out demons from men and women. All through his ministry, he was defeating the powers of evil and chaos. And now the hour has come to cast out the demon which has possessed the whole world. The whole world has been demon-possessed, and on the cross, Jesus exorcises the very power of evil. There is a snake in the grass that has tried to resist the love of God by slowly and slyly slithering through cracks in the hearts of people who are full of greed and lust for power, those who revel in dominating others. But the hour has come to cut off the head of the snake. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be driven out. But then Jesus says, "And when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people to myself." In the first reading from Jeremiah, God speaks of a future new covenant. God says, "No longer shall they teach each other, say to each other, 'Know the Lord,' for they shall all know me, from the least to the greatest. They shall all know me, from the least to the greatest." Jesus says, "I will draw all people to me when I am lifted up." This is a universal action of God. All people will know God. All people will be drawn to Christ eventually. The hour has come to inaugurate the universal, inclusive, and liberating power of God through the tragedy of a death enacted by the state and supported by the religious establishment, through the death of a Middle Eastern Jewish man. The creator of the universe has turned on a magnetic field of love that spread throughout the earth. And that Jewish man hanging on that wooden cross turns out to be the tree of life. When I am lifted up, I will draw all people to myself. Now, like a good novelist, John has already planted clues to this earlier in the gospel. In John 3, as Jesus was talking to Nicodemus, he used the same phrase, lifted up. Just before we get to John 3:16, Jesus says, "Nicodemus, remember when Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness? So must I be lifted up, so that everyone who believes in me will have eternal life. For God so loved the world that the Creator gave the only Son, that anyone who trusts their life to him will not perish like food left out too long, but will have eternal life."